Good morning, good morning, good morning. How gracious and how nice it is to be once again in the house of the Lord. And we thank him for another beautiful day, and we thank him that he's still keeping his hand of mercy around about us. As we've been studying about Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac, we still study today about Jacob being called Israel. The nation was not formed until they had a name to put to it. And Jacob is going to be called Israel. He's going to be the father of many, such as was promised to Abraham, his father. But also, even through the lesson, we're a little ahead of this lesson, we still have somebody on the other side called Esau, who's also the father of a great nation. Conflict. Brothers will be brothers, and they will fight. But while we're in the house of God, let us all agree just to enjoy the worship and service God while we're here. Heavenly Father, we thank you once again, Lord, for another beautiful day, another day that you've kept your hand around and about us, another day, Lord, that you've given us breath and sight, hearing and understanding. We ask now, Lord, even as you go around this sanctuary and all sanctuaries in the world, Father, that you would touch those who are listening, who hear your voice and who would come seek you. We ask now as we go through this lesson, that understanding be put to the forefront. Nothing of my own, Lord, all of you. And as we go, Lord, just keep your hand on each and every person who's been blessed enough to raise up this morning. It's a lot of us, Lord, that hasn't been here. And it's a lot that, Lord, that still don't want to come close to you. But we ask through the lesson and through the seed in the Bible that you would just give them mercy. Let them understand that you're still waiting on them. Let your love be spread worldwide at all times. And let us understand your word and understand you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Jacob called Israel. Before we even get to Jacob being called Israel, we left off with a fight. Jacob had already stolen his brother's blessings. He's stolen the birthright. Jacob was sent away. Now, this is 20 years later. We're not talking about yesterday or last week. We're talking 20 years later, and the fight is still on. He's always afraid. If you do something to somebody, you're always afraid it's going to come back, and it's going to do the same to you. It's going to be causing you harm, hurt, or danger. But when God is in the picture, you only have to look to God to find out what's going on in your life. If you look for anybody else to do anything for you, man will let you down. God will stay with you at all times. So Jacob, being called Israel, he's got a problem. He ran away from home because of Esau and taking his blessing. Well, you don't ask for something you really don't want. In this life, if you want a blessing, ask for it and stay with that. If you ask for a blessing and turn your back and run the other way, you're not going to receive what you want, or you're going to worry about it. Today, I think that's called stress. When you stress out, you can't think right, you can't do right, you can't serve the Lord right, you can't do anything. It's all on your mind and staying there all the time and it's bothering you. So, after he tricked him, he had to go through this 20 years away from home, which he's accumulated his wife now and everything, but 20 years they still don't have a child. So he's got to leave his uncle's house now. He's already got his inheritance from his uncle because he worked for it. Supposedly 7 years for one wife and 7 years for the second wife. But it wound up being 20 years. It's time to leave and go home. I don't care what we do in life, it's always time to come back home. So as Jacob is going home, he gets word that his brother is on the move. Now remember, his brother is a nation also of himself. And he's on the move with 400 men. You hear me and my little household, and Lord, I don't know what to do. How am I going to survive this? I don't know how to get around this. Well, that's where the stress part comes in. That's where God tells you not to worry. Let him handle it. But he still won't do it. He's still looking he wants the answers before he get the problem. And most of the time, we don't have a problem until we start looking for answers. So with this one, as he's going now, he's got all this on his mind. My brother said he would kill me. Surely he's coming to slay me. I will not survive this. My brother is angry. I had to run to get away from him at home. 20 years later, I'm going home and I'm in his country. It's a sad thing when you're walking on the other side of the fence and they say the grass is green on the other side and you find out that both sides got the same type. If you're not mad with anybody, you're not mad with anybody. If you choose to do somebody harm and you know they're going to do you harm, then you have to either have the Lord on your side or be a little bit crazy. You're walking into a certain trap. So he's coming back home. He's afraid. But don't let that stop Jacob, though, because Jacob was appointed by the Lord. He was appointed as the younger brother who would run the interests of the household, and his brother, the older, would serve the younger. His brother would serve him. But that doesn't stop him from being afraid. The little forefront runner to this in this section is called, in the life need, is about a young man who was a associate minister in the church. And we don't even need a state, but he went to move to another state, another place. And he went to start his own church because he said God had told him so. Well, when you go start something, you need a start up. You can start something by yourself. According to who believe in God and who believe in you, it won't get your thing. I've seen it happen several times that people say, I'm going to start a church, and I'll be looking at them praying, Lord, I hope they know what kind of church they're going to start. Over my lifespan, I've seen people rise up and fall down almost in a couple of months. It's not about the people, it's about the message they're bringing. They're looking for the good. They want to get this, that, and the other. Well, here's a young man was called by God. He goes to a whole nother place, starts a little church. His church is housing 15 to 20 members. After about 6 months, he's not sure he's supposed to be there. So what does he do? He asks God, can you show me something different, or do I have to go back home? Well, when you're working on God's time and God is with you, he'll let you know up front that you don't have to go back home. So as this man is meditating and praying one early in the morning, all blessings come early in the morning. Like when you open your eyes, that's a blessing. So all blessings are early in the morning. So as he's praying and he's asking God to show him favor in a sense, that he didn't know what he was supposed to do. While he's doing that, there's a knock on the door. Who but one of his members that he's only had like 6 months. It don't take an older person to tell you something sometime. I don't mean old in age, I'm talking about older in the faith. Don't take an older, sometimes it take that newbie to come up and knock on your door and say, wake up. You don't have to lay here, wake up. So he knocks on the door. And all his stress and strain that he's thinking, I can't run a church, I can't do this, I can't. This young man walks in and said, I've been keeping an eye on you for 6 months. And I've been telling the people around me about you. And they want to come in and start an early morning prayer vigil. Now, I only had one thing for that. When you start an early morning prayer vigil and you know the house don't run itself, you automatically seeing more revenue. As people come in and contribute to the works, you're automatic. It's not about how much money the house is getting, it's how much money you can do ministry with. The one good thing I like, and people don't get it, is about tithing. When you tithe, it's not your money anyway. Why would you worry about it? Now, I would worry if somebody came to get my car and I didn't want them to have it, then that would probably worry me. But the money for the house, it's just like running your own household. This man has an instant impact on somebody. He don't have to move. He don't have to leave. God opened his eyes and said, look around you. People are right here. They're willing to support you. So you don't have to run. The best part about not running is when you put your foundation down, and God bless Bishop and Sister Aurelia, because they've kept this going for 37 years. 37 years in anything. It's a long time. But it's a good time if you're doing something you love. So I admire you for that. But as we go, Jacob has a need to return back home. He's like this associate minister. His time has run out now. He's gotten things together. He's ready to go back home. Well, he's not looking to go back home to try to take everything. The first thing he said some chapters back was, I'm not worthy. Whatever God has given him, he don't feel that he's worthy of it sometimes. He's had the ideas. What did they call him, a deceiver? And when he worked for his uncle for 20 years, he sort of deceived his uncle a little bit. So we're not talking about a guy that only did it once. But now he's fretful because my brother is coming. And he could take it all away instantly. So he's got to conduct himself accordingly. Before we even get to that part of the story, he makes up his own mind what he needs to do. In order to appease my brother, I'll start sending him gifts. I'll send him gifts. As we go, he'll get a gift from me. He'll get something he recognizes that is coming from me. He's looking for me and me only. Save me and my family. Now, you also got a whole bunch of people with you now. You've accumulated, but you've got a whole regiment of people with you. So in order to save your family, he's got to save everybody. He sends messengers out, and he meets his brother. They meet his brother. And they come back and tell him, yes, he's heading this way, and they're 400 strong. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but to get your people together out of the fields and the crops and the other things they are doing to try to go to battle that quick, it would be almost impossible. First thing is, you ain't taking me out this field to go to no fight. No, I'm going to stay out here in the field where it's wide open and I can enjoy life. But that's just one way to look at it. His way is that my brother said he would kill me, and surely he's coming to kill me. He started doubting himself, and he started doubting God. He has already gotten the blessing. He's already the head of the household. He's already, in essence, he's already king. So he has nothing really to fear unless he knows for a fact that his brother's going. He don't know that. He did that when he ran. He said, my brother said he's going to kill me, so I run. Well, time heals all wounds. Sure, as you run through life, you're going to find challenges, you're going to find everything. But time heals wounds. He don't know that yet. So as Jacob is being called Israel, we'll go to the first reading, which is in 22:36, where Jacob wrestles with God. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook and sent them over that he had. And Jacob was left alone. I'll stop that one right there. He rose at night, took his 2 wives, 2 women servants, his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. That was just a tributary to the Jordan River. Now, from my understanding, that river, where it merged with that tributary, made a nice little walk across if you had to get to the other side of the river. They were trying to associate that with Moses parting the Red Sea and walking over. And the more I read it, the more I kept saying, history repeats itself. It could have been the same ford, just got covered over with water. Everything can flood out down there, including tributaries. So he's going over there, and he called over the ford Jabbok. He took his first present from out of his herd, and he sent them across in front of them. Hopefully he's spacing them out, because when I get over that other side, my brother meet me. Surely he's coming to kill me. He might have seen my gifts that I've sent him. He might spare my life and the life of my family. So he's here now, and he's ready to go over. He sent over all that he had on the other side, but he kept back his immediate family. Now you notice I said 11 sons. Rebecca's still in that stage. She's got 20 years down the road, and she's still there. She hasn't had a child yet. Old age, old days, you had to have a child. Had to carry on the family name by the lady you're with. So Jacob was left alone. And one thing about the midnight hour, folks, if you ever want some good things to come from God, be left alone by yourself with your thoughts, and your thoughts are stayed on him. He'll give you answers. He'll give you answers. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." And Jacob said, I'm going to have to rephrase that one so we won't mess it up. "I will not let thee go, except thou bless me." Didn't he already go through that? Isn't this why he's sitting out there in trouble now? He wanted the blessing so bad that he stole his brother's blessings. Now he's fighting a person on the road, a theophany, as they would say, because this person is in person. It can do you harm if you so choose. But I seem to think that this might have been, as they would say, the pre-incarnate Jesus that's meeting him on the path. Remember, nobody ever really heard of Jesus until he came into the flesh. They heard about him. They knew he was coming, but he had to come in person and present himself in person so people could see who he was. But they said, even as Melchizedek met Abraham, that was Jesus. Here we have Jacob meeting a being in the middle of the night, in the midnight hour. And this being very well could have been Jesus. But then why would Jesus need to be there himself when, as he said out in the wilderness? He could send down and get legions of angels to help him. He's got messengers. They have everything in place. Every person has an angel. You just have to believe on them and stay with them when they take you through. They're going to take you through some things. So Jacob is sitting here. And this young man, or this, I would say young man, or this person came along, and he wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. Now, this is a hard fight, but you can just think in your mind, he's not come to harm you, he's come to help you. You're fighting what you don't know. If you don't know for a fact that he's come to hurt you, why are you wrestling with him? So the break of day comes. This young man, this messenger is saying, "Let me go, for that day is breaking." He don't need to be here in the day. You can see in the day. It's night when we have problems. If you don't think you have a problem at night, try driving without your glasses if you got them. You'll see a whole lot of strange things, and it won't only be lights. I will say this: I had the good fortune to drive for 10 years over the road, through mountains, valleys, hills, dales, whatever you want to call them. But I was also told by an older guy that was in the business, be careful when you're driving 2, 3, 4, and 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was sitting there being curious, why? No more than driving in the day. He said, no, but as you get tired, as your body wears and your mind wears, you start seeing things. And he gave me one specific thing to look for, and I'm going to tell you to this day, I know he's being faithful in that saying. He said, when that black dog started running beside you, you got a problem. I'm driving a bus. I got a 47-foot vehicle here, weigh 80,000 pounds. That dog run across me, he in trouble. The man was not kidding. You sit there and you're driving, and then about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when things should be alert and wide open, you see things, you hear things. Train whistles, where is it? Where is this? I'm on the highway, where's this train whistle? And you see things. You look out there, and sure enough, it was 3 of us running together. When I got to the point where we stopped at, I asked the young man, I said, anybody see a dog out there? Sure enough, everybody seen the dog. From then on, I didn't doubt the man's validity. When he said something, I understood him because he'd been there for years. Your mind is going to play tricks on you. So what Jacob is doing here, his mind is playing tricks on him. He's fighting somebody that's not winning. He's not winning. This being is not winning. He's not hurting him, though. The main thing, he's not being hurt. So he said, let me go, for it is light. It is daylight. It's time for me to go. I've been here long enough trying to deliver a message to you. You're not listening. Let me go. Instead, Jacob said, no, I will not let thee go except thou bless me. He's looking for the blessing from on high that everything is going to be, what they say in these days, fine and dandy. Everything is going to be smooth as silk. He wants a blessing that he can run around and just depend that he's not going to be hurt, harmed, or any way in danger. As the angel is letting him go, he touches his thigh. This is why we have limps today, not physically, but spiritually. We'll get into house of God, we'll talk about God, we'll do this, we'll do that, but ask somebody to go down and do something outside on the street. And you'll find out that sometimes they hesitate quite more than they should. That is your limp. Paul had a thorn in his side, but he still had to do the job. Jacob wants a blessing to make sure he can be ensured that he do the job forever and with God's blessing. But he has contrary, as he asks for a blessing in part 2 here, Jacob asks for a blessing. As he asks for a blessing, he's got to be sincere in what he's doing. So we go to part 2. Jacob asks for a blessing. Verse 27. And he said unto him, what is thy name? Jacob. And he said, thy name shall be no more Jacob, but Israel. What do we know about Israel? Big place now, big place. The Israelites are everywhere. They're all over the world right now. If you mention Israel in a sense, you're talking Jewish people. And they are all over the world right now. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For a prince has thy power with God and with men, and has prevailed. He didn't say you beat me. He just said you held me long enough to get your blessing, to get your name changed. Isn't it amazing we could fight our imagination, but when it comes to fighting people, we want to stay there, and as Esau said to his brother, we want to stay there and kill them, or get rid of them, do something to them, so we can be the prevailer. And Jacob asked of him, and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou askest after my name? And he blessed him there. Well, why would you want to know his name? He just beat you. If anything, I would be wanting to know the closest way to get away from somebody I've been wrestling with all night. He's given him the option, let me go. Let me go. And before I go, I will bless thee. So Abraham is now proud of his lineage because this come down through Abraham, Isaac, now Jacob is getting the blessing from God. So we have to look forward to things in our life, but the best thing we can look forward to, if we are blessed of God, we have no problems in this life that's going to concern us. We may be broke. Some days we may go without food, but we don't really have a problem. I think I could suggest to myself that I never had a problem. Even though y'all may see me sitting here looking funny or walking funny, I don't have a problem. It's all right with me. I'm getting there little by little. I love the way my granddaughter said, okay, Daddy, you walking better today. That's it. That's it. Keep walking. Don't stop. Keep walking. I don't have to depend on a cane, but I do depend on God. Because if it's not for him, I wouldn't be able to make that first step. But in Jacob's mind, he needs God's blessings because he wants to make the next step. He's already promised his father to be a great nation. He's already received that blessing coming from his father. Now he needs to go out and prove himself worthy. But you got to watch who you're proving yourself to. God is the only person we need to prove ourselves to. When they get beyond that, I can't prove nothing to man. And as I was saying last week, you can't promise anything. When you promise, you got to be very careful of how you choose to promise people anything in this life. But if you receive the blessings of God, you can tell everybody all about it. You don't have to sit still. You can just tell everybody all about it. The man displaced Jacob's thigh. Okay, this is not like he broke it or twisted it. He just sort of hit it, as we say, put it out of socket a little bit. Well, amazingly, even when things as that happen, we learn to live with it. We learn to live with it. It doesn't matter because you don't feel like it should have happened. It's yours now. Take it and go with it. It's not about going back and I want to give this to somebody. Take your blessings and go. If you conform to who you are, you cannot be concerned about who you are. I do notice a lot around here now about the homeless. I'm going back to them again. I have people call me at home, and people in here thinking they having hard times. Young man I know, he plays the organ. He do a lot of things, but he has no kidneys. He's on dialysis 3 times a week. Now they can't find a place to put things in his vessels because he's running out of them. He turned 65 2 weeks ago. And when he called me, I usually put everything on hold because I know I got an hour and a half on the phone. And it's not a problem. I'm concerned about him, but not about his illness. There's nothing you can do about that. His spirits are excellent. This is a man that, and he still goes, and he still goes, and he still goes. He never stops. He never stops. You see him on a bicycle and he's riding. I used to take him with me when I went down to Tyler's to do community service there in a speak. And he used to love it. He'd get down there and get on the piano and he'd just play. And to look at this man, you go, is he sick? He's not sick. He's enjoying himself. No kidneys. And every time I see him, I just look at this man and marvel. There's some people in this world that you can look at and you can tell they're blessed by God. And then there's some others you look at and you hope to run away from them before they break out in anger. They do show it in the faces. Jacob is showing there that he's pleased with this person. But this person said, I'm going to give you a reminder of who I am. This is a blessing sent by God. Stop worrying about yourself and do as I asked you to do. Go home. Start your own nation. Stop worrying about your brother. He's over that. It don't take long to get past mad. Not at all. And once you get mad with somebody, see how long it takes you to get glad. If nothing is going wrong, you have no ought to hold against them. Why would you? Why would you? You can't stay mad long, but Jacob is still insisting that his brother is coming to kill him. He's still insisting. So, in keeping with Jacob's request, the challenger asks the patriarch his name. Notice he said patriarch. He's already the family patriarch. He's the younger brother. He's gotten their birthright. He's the patriarch. No doubt the challenger knew exactly with whom he had been wrestling. However, this request was for Jacob's sake. He was about to receive a new name from God, Israel, which means he struggles with God in Hebrew. Isn't it amazing we can change our name in the middle of things? But when God changes your name, you have to be aware that he's changing it for the good, not for the bad. So Jacob is wrestling with him. He's got his limp now, his blessings. He's on his way. We still haven't got there, and it's not going to end in this lesson, but we still haven't gotten to meeting his brother. That's one of the stories you really love. If you read it, if you've seen it, you really love it. Because what happened is not unforetold. We forgive, we move on. We forgive, we move on. Now Jacob is asking the same question he asked his mother, who gets the blessing, and his mother showed him how to get the blessing. Now he's asking God about his blessing, and he gets the blessing from God, which means you got to take control over who you are. Stop worrying about what's going to happen and just go do as I ask you to do. When we get so afraid that God is going to end our life, I'm going to be honest, I've had a great life. I've enjoyed it. I sit down sometimes and try to think back of when something went wrong. It's few and far in between. It's not about me being myself or somebody else. It's about God blessing me. I've been blessed all my life. Y'all may not think so. Operations and all that, it's just another time that God put somebody in place to help you when you can't help yourself. And that's the only way to look at it. So, as Jacob's going, now he's going to name this place he's in because he'd already laid there for the night. It's time to go. Time to meet his brother. And Jacob, verse 30 to 32. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face. No man has seen the face of God and lived. It didn't mean you were going to die, but you weren't going to see it in a human form life and live. In order to see his face, we got to do one other thing. We got to cross that brook. Got to get to the other side. I stop when I read this every time. It's just, to me, it's just touching. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. That makes me wonder, did he see God face to face, or did he see God's messenger giving him what he sent him to do? And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Remember, the angel has already touched him. Whoever the heavenly being is has already touched him. So now when he's getting ready to walk, what they call a slip joint, it has slipped out of joint. So he's got to walk now with a limp. But folks, let's not get confused with that. What God give us, what they always say in the song, say, whatever he's got, whatever he gives you, it's for you. It's not to be given away. It's not to be treated lightly. It's for you. All you have to do is learn how to accept it. And he passed over Peniel, and the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew with strength, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. Well, the fight was evenly matched until daybreak. Jacob wanted a blessing, and I'm going to say the angel. And the angel was ready to go. He had other work to do. Just because he's fighting with you and he's not hurt you, truthfully, you got to say, this has been a blessing. I fought with something all night, and I'm coming out without a scratch. But once you start walking, you realize where the pain is. Now you got to accept it. Now, who won? Anybody know who won that match? I think God won. God sent his messenger to get the message over to Jacob of what was going on in his life. You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to worry. Now you can just go out and do the works I sent you to do. Go out and establish yourself. Now remember the 20 years that Jacob been gone, when he was with his uncle, they worked out a little deal. Jacob is not a poor man. He's not a poor man. He's got an entourage. And he's got plenty of entourage. So he's not a poor man. Back to his gifts to Esau. He sent over one section. He sent over 2 sections. He sent over 3 sections. Surely this is going to appease my brother when he sees that I am trying to do the right thing by him. I'm giving him the best of what I've got. I'm sorry this lesson going to end before we get into that part. I sort of really just enjoyed that part. But it all comes back to, Lord, why me? Why am I chosen to do this? Well, you wanted the blessing. You came out and you tried to pull your brother back so you could get ahead. So you're ahead now. You have to take up for the whole family line. We look at our lineage and our heritage from our families. Now, I'm truthful when I say I've seen a lot of young folks today, and they really make me sad. They have no one to depend on. Somewhere in the middle of where we are, back where they are, it's been broken, very sadly broken. And everybody has, the iPhones and all of this now, and they can keep up with the world in a second. Think about the old days. I lived in the country. We didn't have a phone, but if I did something a couple of miles down the road, when I got home, I got my little butt whipped because I knew it was coming. It's worse than a telephone. Now people got telephones. They can see everything. Had Jacob had a phone back in that day, could he not have called Esau and said, look, I'm coming through your territory. Let me know now what's going to be going on so I won't be concerned or worried about it. They could have done that if they'd had personal contact. But he chose to run away for 20 years. The best part is God is sending him back home. You can run all you want, but you're going to come home. Whether it be physical home here or physical home in heaven. And I said physical home in heaven because we know we're not going to get there physically. But wherever our home is going to be, we're going to be permanently assigned. And Jacob has been assigned to go back home. You're the patriarch of the family now. Go back home. Through Abraham, he was going to be blessed. Through Esau, he was blessed. Through Isaac. And through Jacob, the blessing is still going. We all wrestle with the mysteries of God, such as why bad things happen to good people. Haven't we heard that a lot? We believe in all God's attributes, especially in his sovereignty, love, and faithfulness. Yet, we wrestle daily with the unanswered questions. In the end, we accept that God is God that knows what is best for us. This is the essence of faith. If you believe in God and believe he knows what is best for you, shouldn't you believe that God is going to take care of everything I'm doing here as long as it's in the will of God? Now, if it's outside the will of God, I wouldn't tell you to be so hasty to get on your knees. You might not get up. Yeah, you might not get up. God don't like ugly. And sin is the ugliest thing you can get. And the worst thing you can do is lie to yourself. When you start lying, one lie always have to lead to another. But when you're lying to yourself, you're hurting yourself real, real bad. Why me? Why me? When you're tossing and turning in your bed, when you see things at your door that shouldn't be, when you see things or you want to share and people want to go into full-time things and you agree with them, you got to stop saying why me and say just me. Ministry is no different today. I am so pleased that Bishop Nicholson took the time out to take a look back, not because of me, but just look back at me and know I'm not afraid to open my mouth and talk. Thank God for that privilege. It's been a time when I wouldn't do it, but thank God for that privilege. Well, as it says here, as finite human beings, We can never comprehend all the mysteries of our great infinite God. However, God, in his love and mercy, chose to give us a glimpse of himself through Jesus Christ. Now remember, Jesus is a few hundred years down the road. So they don't have Jesus to appear and reappear in the sense that he's a being. He's been here since time began. And as God recanted the story to Moses, in the beginning was the Word. And who do we call Jesus? We call him the Word. He is the Word. He's light. So he's been here forever. So we'll just go ahead and go to Colossians. I had all this. We get ready to take it wrong phone. Had all this stuff down in my little phone, but I don't even think I'm gonna get there. But I'm gonna just say it anyway. When we have God in our life, we know about Jesus. The more we know about Jesus, the more we know about God. He has given us the mind of Christ. And if you look in Luke 19:10, it says you have to seek and save that which is available to you, which is Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter if you think he's been doing you wrong or you think you've been wrong all your life. You haven't been wrong. You just have to remember that God is still on your side, whether you like it or not. When he's off your side, if you think you're having troubles now, I was there, I said, don't wait for those to come. So Luke 19:10, you have to seek and save that which is your own, which is the mind of Christ. We have the mind of Christ. Through his blessings, we have his mind. How do we get to the Father and know the Father? Through Jesus Christ. Philippians 2:5-8 says we have to have the mindset of Jesus. Another indication that if our mind is not working with God and what he's doing for us, then we're not doing his will. His will in us should be to give him all the glory, honor, and praise that we can. And then if you go to John 1:12-13, it tells us that we have the power to be the sons of God. Jacob didn't miss his blessings with that. He is a son of God. All because his father was a friend of God. His grandfather, I should say, was a friend of God. We have to remember whenever we go to God, we want God to do things for us in a nice, pleasant way. We don't want the headaches, we don't want the concern, but we have to make sure our life is warranted, that God can take care of it. If not, we're only kidding ourselves. One very, very blessed part about this is when he's being called, they give you some pointers. One, they gave us the problem, which I was reading earlier, when Jacob ran away from Canaan because Esau threatened to kill him. 2, it was a fight. Angels of God is always in our lives. We are assigned an angel or 2, or maybe more. We just have to be careful how we proceed with them. It's not about being the best in the world. It's about being the best in God. The surrender. Jacob pleaded that he would not let the angel go until he blessed him. Well, while he was fighting him, God was already changing his name. So if you think you're in this world today and you don't know Jesus enough and you don't have the mind of Christ, you're still fighting God. When you finish fighting God, give it up and give it back to the one who created us. The only way you're going to get anything out of this life is to believe on the one who made us. And I do say made us. If you don't think your body go back to ashes, and dust to dust, take another look around and see nobody come back lately and tap me on the shoulder and say, I've been here before. My thing has always been, I've seen people come and go. One of my most horrific experiences was watching my brother and cousin drown. That will kick you in the head at 14 years old. That's a kicker. And that's why I say I'm so glad today, forgive me for putting that in there, I'm so glad today I can talk, because after I learned to shut up for 2 years, then I started talking, and I ain't stopped since. I ain't stopped. I love it. I mean, because now I got something to talk about, so do it all you can. I'll just put that out there. 2 brother and cousin drowned. I tried to help the brother out, and I wound up on dry land. Don't ask me how, I put it like this. It wasn't me. I was out in the water. But somebody chose to keep me here, so I'm giving God all the credit for that. Back to Jacob. Jacob memorialized the resting place by calling it Peniel, meaning face of God. He rested in this place all night, anxious, worried. He couldn't get himself together. He knew he had his brother coming to him. His messengers are not wrong. It's like the scouts that Moses sent out. They scouted out the place and come back with the report. Now, whose report do you believe? You haven't been out there, so you got to believe what your messengers are telling you. He's coming. I hate ending this story because this story is wide open to be there. One day, hopefully, we get through this. So he's coming. Another memorial established itself in Jacob's body. He would always walk with a limp, a constant reminder of what happened that night. When we do something wrong, usually we get scars, we get broken bones, we get skin messed up, everything else. But I guarantee you, somewhere down the road, you're going to have a scar you're going to look back at. Jacob's scar was his hip. He's already seen the face of God, as he put it. But now, remember, this was before Jesus came, said, no man sees the face of God and live. So he's seen the face of God. His memorial is in his hip. He's going to have that the rest of his life. The best thing I tell anybody that's sick or ailing, ask God to give you strength. Forget about what ails you and keep doing what he asks you to do. Trust God. This is the biggest portion of the whole book. The Bible wasn't written because people didn't trust God. It was written because of the prophets and the evangelists and everybody that came along, and God gave them wisdom, gave them words, and sent them out to do the work, to trust him. He will take care of you. He'll take care of everybody in your family. Might not be what we want sometimes. Sometimes we're so hard-headed to the point that God say, go left. No, I'm not going there. As soon as we turn right and go 2 or 3 steps, we know we messed up. Now you just don't come back to the starting point. You got to stop, as they would say in the Army, I would imagine, stop, drop, and roll. Got to stop, drop on those knees, roll that prayer back up to God and ask him to straighten it out and send you where you belong. So you got to trust God. We don't have anything that's far beyond our imagination here on this earth. Everything has been brought so close. I say again about these cell phones. Everything has been brought so close that anything happening in Russia and Ukraine right now, the phone lights up and tell you. I mean, I'm not there, but I could almost basically see how much, even last night while I'm sitting there looking, the thing pops up about Ukraine and how they're staunchly beating down on Russia. Well, you ask for a fight, you got to fight. That's all I can say about it. I'm not there, but thank God they got a mind of their own. They can defend themselves. This is what Jacob thought he was going to have to do. So what you do, you trust God. But there are times when that infinite mind cannot grasp the infinite. At those times, we must trust God and humbly lean on him, even when no one has logical answers. How logical is it? The younger twin grabs the older twin. He gets the blessing from the father through mischief. He goes, he wants the blessing from God. He gets it through an angel, and he still has yet a long way to go. We're talking to a man that's 60 years old now. He's not a baby. He needs to get himself together more and more every day. God is not going away from us, folks. He's always right there with us. So we have to lean on him. We have to trust him. So in this lesson today, before Jacob meets his brother, he has to learn to lean on God first. Nobody's going to take that situation out from under him. Nobody's going to take anything away from him as long as he have trust in God to do it for him. Our thing today is trust in God. He'll make your ways smooth. He don't have to lock you up to get you to understand anything. If you're open-minded, if you have your belief in him, you can understand it as you go through the Word. And it's a word in this book for every situation there is. I won't even count how many names of God we can call him. But when you say you can see him face to face, as Jacob did with Peniel, I think he's got the best blessing in the world. If you see him face to face here, what are you going to do later? When the time comes, we are going to see God face to face. Judgment day is at hand. Jacob thought his judgment day was when he meet his brother. That's why I hate ending the story, because when he meets his brother, I got to go with that. When he meets his brother has the biggest change of heart you ever seen. He's not coming to harm him. He's coming to help him. You want to go home? Let me help you through my land to get back to our land. Notice I said my land, our land, because he's from there too. So he's not going to hurt anybody. He wants you to pass through safely. When you're trying to give him gifts and you're trying to do everything to appease somebody, give yourself first. He didn't ask for anything physically, monetarily, or anything. Give yourself first. Best part about this story, which is not here, this is about Jacob being called Israel, inheriting the patriotic stand. But his brother, how about the prodigal son that left home? What did the father do when he returned home? His brother ran and kissed him. Back in those days, I hope nobody ever get that twisted, because we have folks now that's doing things that's not for the church. But back then, the father and son, of course, you kiss your kinfolks, especially if you haven't seen them in a long time. So his brother ran out and kissed him. The best part about trusting in God, all that worry and frustration you've had, all that night of restless sleep, sleeping on the rocks for your pillow, now you learn your brother wants to bless you also. So his thing is, I don't know where I am now. You're the head of the family. You've got God's blessing. Go in peace. Go run your life in peace. Right after that, and I'm going to finish it with this one. The story is deeper than what it is here. Right after that, 20 years of rolling around in somebody else's country and working for them, now you're going to get your own country that God had already promised. And the most amazing part is, we get the successor in the line of Jesus. Jacob's youngest son is going to be born after 20 years. And his name is going to be Joseph. That is a story I love over and over. I don't love him because of his name. I love him because of his multicolored coat. Everybody don't get to dress up in God's sight, especially when your daddy is doing it for you. But back to Jacob and being called Israel. The name change itself today is still important. We know who Israel is. We know where the Israelites are. And we know that they still serve a conscious, living God. It's not about serving trophies, not about serving anything else except a living God. Jacob served a living God. So with that, folks, I'm going to leave that, because if I try to keep going through it, I'm going to keep bringing more and more stuff in. My mind is not that good these days. Lord God, we thank you once again, Father, for your word. We thank you that you sit in the presence, Lord, and just open ears and open hearts and minds. We ask now that as we go through this day, that the service that's coming with us, Lord, just bless the bishop and bless the entourage that he's bringing with him, that we can all just trust in you just a little bit more. And as the blessings are passed out, Lord, bless us that we might go out and tell somebody else about the goodness of you. In all things that we do today, Lord, we give you honor, we give you glory, we give you praise, and mostly we give you thanks just for being God all by yourself. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.